So we just wanted to take an option or take some time to talk about what we actually like to eat.
So the question that we got was from a member was, what are your favorite keto lunch options? All right, so I'm going to share my favorites and then Jeremy's going to share his favorites. So we also have links to all these recipes for you and we'll make sure we get those into the description. So don't worry about having to save them or jot them down here when we're talking about the different recipes. You can also go to our website at wholebodyliving.com and just search based on the recipe name that I share here. So my favorite keto lunch options are my keto chicken casserole. So this has some broccoli and some cauliflower, some chicken and some seasonings, and it's creamy. It's one of my favorite keto comfort foods. And you're going to notice a lot of these are kind of comfort foody because here in Iowa, the temperature is getting cold. And so you kind of get that
Yeah.
comfort food
And,
desire.
and casseroles are really something that it's like batch cooking, right? So you're going to cook a little bit, eat some of it, freeze the rest, and then you have lunches for a while.
Yeah. So my keto Instapot pot roast. That is a like
Instant pot roast.
Instapot Keto Instapot Roast is the name of it on my website. And this is the traditional pot roast that I grew up eating. And I changed a few ingredients around. I made it keto and then I made it even more tender and faster using the Instapot. So we love using Instapot. There's also some great health benefits to using pressure when you cook.
Yeah, so pressure cookers have been used for a long time. They actually will break down lectins in foods, and lectins are one of those things that you might hear called an anti-nutrient, like the anti-nutrients that you find in vegetables that you may have heard about recently. Well, pressure cooking can break down lectins.
It also does a great job of breaking down collagen so it's more digestible for your body, which is why it's so tender. So that's one of my favorites. I've got a few roasts in the freezer that I'm going to cook one of those this week. My zucchini lasagna. So we're just kind of coming out of zucchini season here. So that's one of my favorites that's been in rotation. Our keto quiche. So the keto quiche recipe I have is actually so this was a recipe my mom got for my prom, my high school prom. Yeah. So we would make it, it kind of became a family tradition to eat this keto quiche every year, like over the winter, around the holidays. Well, when I went keto, I'm like, man, how could I make that? And I finally figured out how to use cauliflower rice to make this amazing keto quiche. And our kids like the keto version, like the low carb version better than the one with the bread in it. So
Why
that one
why was your mom setting you up for failure for prom with like a big heavy tea?
it was, I grew up in a town of like 2,500 total, right? My high school class was like 72 people. So I grew up in a very, very small community. So the parents would do all the food for the prom brunch and it was a set menu and they always did this quiche. So it was just, I don't know where the recipe came from, but it was somebody's recipe and it was delicious. My mom made a few tweaks with it because she loved to cook. So she made a few tweaks to it and added some different flavor enhancers that her dad had taught her. And so then I redid it into a low carb option. So that's one of my absolute favorites and is on my list to make soon. So that's actually what we do Christmas morning is I have the quiche, I make that up the night before and then I pop it in the oven because it takes a little over an hour to bake, which is about the perfect time to do
Yeah.
stockings, get through presents, and then you have a hot, healthy breakfast instead of them just eating, well, we don't really get them very much candy anymore.
Candy canes and
Yeah.
whatnots.
So then I would be remiss if I didn't share a few of my favorite breakfast for lunch recipes because I don't, we intermittent fast for the most part. So breakfast for lunch, I love my keto coconut flour waffles. I'll make a double batch and I'll freeze them and then just pull them out and have my homemade maple syrup ready for that. So those are my top recipes that kind of end up in rotation very often over the winter.
So my favorites, in no particular order, are creamy chicken chili. So this is one of the first things that I can remember. It's not that maybe it isn't, but it's one of the first things I can remember that Tara really kind of ketofied and that I just absolutely loved. So it was kind of like an analog for chicken and noodles, right? That's how it tasted to me. Is like, oh, this is warm and comforting, like chicken and noodles is, except for it's a creamy white chili. and it's just delicious. Like
Very satisfying.
you can like put it on other things as a topping. That's what I like about it because it's cream based. It really just works well with other things,
Like you
whatever
can
that might be.
like a chicken breast
Yeah.
or a chicken thigh.
If you want to get weird, you could even smother some waffles with this stuff.
Okay.
Chicken and waffles. Hello, it's delicious. So my other favorite is the one that I've been working on a lot over the last year and a half is keto chili, right? So I love keto chili because every time I make it, I can try something different, right? I can do ancho chilies, I can do chipotle, I can add a lot of jalapenos, I can add a little, I can, so I can just do different things. But one of the things I really like to do with this is add some liver. So some of the organ meats. It's a great place to hide organ meats, and organ meats are the real superfoods in the world. So liver is gram for gram packed with more nutrients than just about every vegetable that you can find. Right? They're just so high. Our liver is just so high in so many different vitamins that it's like taking a multivitamin just by eating it, right? So that's what we're talking about, like getting back to whole foods, and keto chili is a great place to hide a little bit of liver.
Yes, it really is. So how we do that is we cook some up and then we run it through our food processor. So if you're fancy, like if you have a meat grinder, you can absolutely grind it that way.
Right. You could actually like take some already ground beef or something like that and grind the liver in with it. That'd be a good way. That's a good option.
But we don't we do have a food processor. So we go ahead and we cook it and then we dice it up and just puree it with our food processor and then we mix that in with
Right.
everything
Yeah.
else. So that's how we incorporate it. We don't and also when you make it very small, like very fine, it's not as noticeable, right? Liver has a very specific texture that you don't necessarily want. So, but you do want to keep your ratio fairly low. So maybe about 20%, 10 to 20%
Yeah. Yeah.
total meat.
So when I'm making my chili, I tend to use between 4 and 5 pounds of meat because I make a pretty big batch so that I have something to eat for a couple days, like many several days.
He stocks the freezer.
Yeah. So, I will typically do 1 pound of liver and 4 pounds of something else, usually a couple sausages and some beef is what I like to put in.
Yeah.
So the next thing I really like is Tex-Mex liver casserole. So this is just a casserole. Again, I'm sneaking some liver in. This time I'm letting the liver play a little bit more of a starring role in this. So, but it's like that Tex-Mex side of it kind of gives it a nice flavor that's different from the chili.
Yeah, and we like to top it with some sour cream, some avocado, some cheese, some different things like that.
Right, and you could really get fat heavy on this really quickly with avocado and sour cream. So this is like a powerful nutrient packed meal right there. Is this
Yes,
Tex-Mex
great.
liver casserole?
Great for OMAD. If you're just doing one meal a day and you want to pack in a lot of nutrition into that one meal, fantastic dish for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we like to a lot of these we'll make large batches, which will generally Saturdays is our cooking day, so we'll make large batches of the different things and then we'll divide them into containers and freeze them right away. Because also what happens is your leftovers sit in the fridge is they develop more and more histamine. And for some people, histamines can be difficult to clear from the body. So just a histamine response. So I became aware of this because my sister is very histamine intolerant. So she'd eat anything with high histamines and her face turns bright red. So if that happens to you, it could be histamine intolerance. And one really easy thing to do is just freeze your food. So
Yeah. So like Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's have a harder time clearing histamines in their bodies. So like leftover foods can be an aggravating thing for them. So
yeah, so we love to batch cook. So then here's a couple of
my quickies are if I just need something really, really fast, is to come upstairs and make some scrambled eggs with a sausage, right? That's easy. It's pretty high in fat. Eggs are great just because they're a very nutrient dense, well rounded food. And what else did I write down?
grilled cheese with
Yeah,
the
like
breads.
like a keto bread, grilled cheese. I love to use like a Munster or something a little bit, maybe even like blue cheese, something a little more exotic,
It's a little like
tasty.
cheese, yes.
So
Yeah, but that's a good one. So what do we do when we're really busy? There's always the snack meals, which are really easy to come up with. But we also keep our freezer stocked, as you guys know. We're huge fans of Real Good Foods and how good their food is and how wholesome their food is. So you'll find if you came over to our house, walked in right now, went to the basement, you're going to see, Real Good Foods pizzas and bowls and bacon wrapped raw chicken and different things like that. So we keep all that on hand for. We have a really big, busy weekend, like this weekend when Jeremy rebuilt a computer. Did you get the second one done?
Yes, I did.
Two computers. He rebuilt two computers. We just had a lot going on. Then we kind of fall back on those things in the freezer. But we've really become big proponents of meal planning. And I'll tell you what, for years, we both resisted this. Like, we're like, oh, planning's too much work. I don't want to spend a whole day doing meal prep. But then we kind of got serious about it earlier this year. And we're like, this frees up so much space in my brain during the week because all of a sudden I'm not thinking, as it's coming close to noon, like, what am I going to have for lunch? I don't have anything ready. What's going to be the quick thing? And constantly going back on, like almonds and cheese,
Right.
just so we got real serious about it for a month. And, every week we meal plan, every week we do our shopping list. We have three kids that work at a grocery store. So they pick up our groceries for us. It's a nice perk as a parent to have a teenager that works at a grocery store right now. And doing this just frees up so much time during the week where I'm not having to think about food. I'm not tempted when the kids are out there making all their carbs,
Well,
you know?
and so maybe you've heard of decision fatigue, right? It's like every time you have to make a decision during the day, it just you like get a little bit weaker and your willpower just kind of gets zapped. And by the end of the day, maybe you've had to make so many hard decisions that you go ahead and just do whatever the cheat is that you want to do and bust up your keto diet. So pre-planning and doing like this batch cooking, like something with me for me is like chili, takes that decision out of my hands for the week. I don't have to think about it. Just get my chili, and then that's one less thing I have to think about and decide on in the day. So at the end of the day, I'm not feeling so stressed and worn out from all the decisions I had to make.
Yeah, exactly. So, actually created this worksheet for myself and shared it with my members, and we turned it into a tear off pad. So, what this is over on this one side is all the days of the week and your meals, and then this other side is your shopping list, organized by category. So, this is actually what we use to do our meal planning and what our middle child uses because she's taken over the kids' meal planning. So, she's using this now and having a great time with that. So, like I said, all of our products are in our sustainableketo.com store, so you can find all of our different things. So this one pad will last you a year. It's 60 sheets, so there's one for every week, and a handful of extras for those special occasion weeks, like all the stuff that's coming up right now. So yes, so it seems like a lot of work to do meal planning in advance, but once you actually do it and figure out how to do it and get into a rhythm, it is so much less work to spend the 4 to 6 hours on the weekend, depending on how involved your recipes are and how far you have to go to get groceries. It is so much less work and so much less stress on us throughout the week to know exactly what we're eating and just can coast through the week without having to think about what's my next meal.
Well, and if you're new to keto and you're trying to crack your macros, think about how much less time you'll have to spend tracking
Logging.
if you've already planned it all out for the week.
Yeah, it's already done. So, Alora had a great question here. What kind of containers do you put in the freezer? So we freeze in plastic. So we do use just inexpensive plastic containers to freeze, but then we take out what our meal is first thing in the morning, and we don't reheat plastic. We move our meal to a glass bowl, and
Yeah.
we don't reheat plastic. We just freeze in plastic. And of course, you never want to put really, really, really hot food in that plastic. So you want to make sure you cool down your food. So what we do is we cook it, we'll put it in the fridge, we'll let it get cold, then we'll fill our plastic containers and put those in the freezer. So why do we worry about heat and plastic?
Well, yeah, it's just so if you've heard of BPA and there's some other ones. I'm not really sure what they are, but
There's
it's
phytoestrogens.
just like yeah, phytoestrogens. So those phytoestrogens are chemicals that mimic the properties of estrogen in the body, and those come out of plastics. So like every time, like not to scare anybody, but like receipts that you get at the grocery store are covered in BPA, and that's one of the places you can pick up these phytoestrogens. So cooking inside of plastics is a great way for the food to leach the BPA and other things out of the plastic into the food that you're eating. So like Tara said, you want to cool it in the container that you cooked it in, so something that's made out of glass or stainless steel, and then put it into your plastic container, freeze it, and then when you're ready to cook it, you want to put it into a glass or stainless. Well, you don't want to microwave stainless steel, but
No.
you want to reheat it in something that is not plastic.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have favorite keto lunch ideas, we'd love to hear those. So pop those below in the comments.